Hello. I think the UFOs, UAPs, are the property and workings of the United States and their military slash research and or intelligence agencies working in concert with one another to some degree, as I will explain in this video. So my video isn't some clickbait variety. I'm revealing my answer right off the bat. Hello. My name is Lance Bailey. I'm a United States civilian citizen. I am going to put forth a reasonable and logical theory to specifically the recent phenomenon, explosion, so to speak, of UFO or UAPs, an unidentified aerial phenomenon. As seen in the popular Tic Tac and Go Fast videos confirmed by the U.S. government and what some are also labeling potentially hypersonic drones. Big clue there. In my opinion, the bulk of the evidence points to my conclusion. I believe it is the most logical. Clue number one: the willingness of the government to even acknowledge and validate the phenomenon, which is a complete break from their traditions of denial. Why? The obvious logical answer is that they have an agenda of some sort, and it's important to stress they did not have to acknowledge. Oh, but there was all this public pressure, right? I mean, that has existed for years. But then President Trump slipped the little mandate into the bill requiring full closure by June of 2021. Well, hold your breath for the big nothing burger that will emerge as the result of that. And then ask yourself, what did the government have to gain by acknowledging prematurely, especially when the end result is we don't know what they are? That leads to clue number two: we don't know, which is really the biggest of the clues. I listed it second merely because it flows with the outline of my argument. One, they acknowledge. Two, the acknowledgement is we don't know. Be suspicious of any time the government states an admission of failure like we don't know. This particular piece of my argument is especially complex as it gets to public perception about government in general. I think it's safe to say, at least from polling and election results, opinions in the media, talking heads, coffee table in the newsrooms, etc., that Americans especially, and arguably most everyone, falls into two buckets: people who are trustful of government and those who are not. You can likewise replace the word government with media even. But focusing just back to the government now, I think it should be clear to the keen observer that in general the government, and particularly the military leadership and especially the intelligence organizations, are professional liars by definition. Simply by virtue of doing many things in secret, projects, programs, maneuvers, etc., it is not necessarily 100% malevolent, like when you deny a military action that you are currently planning, but it is lying nonetheless. The government is super proficient at lying, propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, covering up their agendas. I mean, they are professional liars. Clue number three: the government's theories, apart from their lack of admitted understanding. So one, they acknowledge the phenomenon. Two, their acknowledgement is they don't know what they are. Three, but their hunches, their stated worries, high on the list, their short list, is that they are either extraterrestrials or they may be the technology of our foreign adversaries, namely Russia and China. You're hearing this over and over, and I'll be delving into that shortly. Clue number four: when they keep saying, we know they're not ours. Okay. In sarcasm. We know that you believe that we've been keeping military secrets for decades now, despite nothing to the such that has ever been available on the internet, but trust us, it's not one of ours. I mean, I even read a laughable comment one day in the media outlet to the effect, all of the government agencies and departments are in agreement that to the best of their knowledge, it's not one of theirs. Yeah. That rare moment of interdepartment solidarity, of honesty, truth, and forthcomingness. I roll. Look, the U.S. government, again, especially in the realm of the military/intelligence communities, have epitomized and honed to an art form, not letting the right hand know what the left hand is doing. Oh, but that's all behind us now, right? Yeah. So that's the basis of my argument. We're acknowledging freely, acknowledging that we don't know. We don't know, but we think it's very possible that they are Chinese or Russians, maybe extraterrestrials, but we know it's not one of ours. Look, everybody, these four critical pieces fall together like bread, bologna, lettuce, and cheese, and extra bologna because it's a big bologna sandwich. Now, the elephant in the room, or maybe Schroeder's cat, is that these U.A.P.s, these unidentified aerial phenomena, appear to be violating the laws of physics. That's really the only reason this whole subject is on the hot plate grill today. I think that piece is explainable. So I'm going to delve into that and explore the relationship with especially points 2, 3, and 4, and I will show you why the current narrative, the position of the government and its authorities, is completely laughable. If you've been paying attention, particularly over the last several years, you've seen the acceleration of the military arms race, especially in regards to China, but in Russia as well. Now, I am not an expert content creator. I'm kind of old school, so I'm not going to insert all kinds of slides and photos. It's just not my style. Look, I'm taking this all in one take. You know, mouth verbal flubs, I'm going to leave them in there. This is a one-shot pony here. So take notes or mental notes and go research the things I'll mention. It's not necessary to show you a picture. For example, it is now June 2021. Last month, the media reported that China was showing off their new stealth bomber, which looks practically identical to the United States' B-2 bomber, which you've no doubt seen photos of unless you've been living under a rock. So visualize a B-2 bomber. That's what China's new stealth bomber looks like. Wonder how that happened. It's easy. The Chinese are counterfeiters. This is an important point, as I will explain. I'm not merely saying this to defame the Chinese. I'm just saying they borrow technology, and it's no big secret. We're probably willing to borrow technology ourselves. That being said, the Chinese are very proficient. They have a space program, etc. Likewise, the Russians have made great strides. They have a drone nuclear-powered, thermonuclear armed torpedo of massive proportions designed to destroy entire coastlines. Look up the Poseidon weapon. Both Russia and China have active hypersonic weapons development programs. But the point here is that while they make interesting, captivating news stories, it's an illusion of sorts. We've had a hypersonic weapons program for 80 years. It's called the space program. Every rocket is hypersonic. ICBMs are hypersonic vehicles that reach hypersonic speeds So there's a lot of misnomers and there's some head faking going on. This is important because it would be easy to look at, say, China or Russian advancements, see them pushing towards parity with our military capabilities, which they are no doubt doing. But in doing so, it glosses over the fact that the U.S. has been doing, insert practically anything technologically you can think of here for decades, longer than any country. So our total wealth of knowledge is going to be significantly technologically greater. And we live in a world where, for example, I can even download the schematics for an electronic device, order the necessary parts, purchase me a soldering iron, and if I'm diligent, make a working copy of the original device, even though this boy won't have a clue how it actually works, or more importantly, appreciate the history process, understand all the steps technologically that was learned in that process. I mean, this is oversimplification, but the principle is sound. When you develop something, you know more than the people who borrow it. It's just logic. If the U.A.P.s are of terrestrial origin, they are most certainly ours, as in the United States of America. Our B-2 stealth bomber was decades in development, and flying wings can be traced well into the mid-20th century. There are alleged successors to the U-2 spy plane, the so-called Aurora project, which is still officially under wraps. So that leads us to the culprit source, which I believe involves anti-gravitational technology. Researching shows that there was a big push in anti-grav in the 1950s. We can conclude that that research continues. Also, both a cursory study into either anti-gravitational research or Einstein's theory of relativity will show that any work in the field of anti-gravitation or gravitational manipulation involves the manipulation of the space-time, which going forward I'll just refer to this as simply space. Theory of relativity supposes that bodies of mass warp the fabric of space. Theoretically, you and I do it. We warp the fabric of space. Planetary bodies warp space on a larger scale. This is established understanding of the laws of physics, the physics that these objects appear to be violating. And this brings up another interesting observation. It's funny how we just make an assumption that aliens are the only candidates. Logically, if aliens are coming here, it's through the great vastness of space, either through some theoretical wormhole or by warping the fabric of space, which are one and the same. We're conditioned to understand this through 70 years of science fiction movies. It has been implanted in us. So it's really funny, in fact, that many of us are inclined to more easily accept that these phenomena are of extraterrestrial origin than they are terrestrial, even though logically, while there might be different methods of achieving a goal, the result would be the same. Moving between 2 points by changing the relative distance between them, warping space. The laws of the universe are that, they're universal. So I mentioned conditioning previously regarding movies. Conditioning is simply controlling. I believe that there's a gap between knowledge that is taught in books and knowledge that actually exists. I also believe it's in our collective nature to do that. I mean, everyone likes having their own little secret. It creates a gap, an imbalance of knowledge, and there's power in that. There are also practical, if not controversial, considerations for doing that. The documentary on the light bulb is very eye-opening. I mean, we've had for 100 years the technology to produce a light bulb that will last a super long time. And we know that because the longest continual burning light bulb has been burning continually for 100 years. Go look it up. The manufacturers colluded early on to limit the lifespan of their bulbs for obvious reasons. Just a quick example of technology gap. In case in this case, the gap between capability and what the public has access to. The same goes for aircraft. Aside from the Concorde supersonic jet, commercial air travel across the planet hasn't increased since the late 60s with the advent of the 747. Planes don't fly any faster than the 747s did when they rolled them out. Importantly, all technology by its nature has military applications and implications. There's advantages to keeping things secret, especially with your adversaries. So it's to all players' advantage to try and maintain a gap, not just an edge. And you can do this two ways, either by moving ahead faster than the other or by throttling the other, and ideally doing both at the same time. This is the crux of military ideology, and I believe at both a national and a world system level, this deliberate gap is engineered, especially between the commercial slash private sectors and the military slash research sectors. Don't make the mistake of thinking that everyone wants the world to be a better, faster, more efficient operating place. There are a ton of considerations to think about when you start to think of the full implications of all of that. Look no farther than the internet. The internet has certainly been weaponized. All technology gets weaponized. Technology is very dangerous. The folks at Langley, the Christians in Action, understand this better than anybody. They've been tinkering with people's brains with collective groupthink principle for decades. The government knows how to play dumb. Start to make sense? We don't know what they are. We just know they're not one of ours. I mean, that of course makes you look totally incompetent and non-suspect, which of course is precisely the effect they are going for. So how are you doing it then? How do you manipulate space, anti-gravity? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Play with me for a while here. Look, the speed of sound is around 1,100 feet per second. Let's say you round it down and say the speed of sound is 1,000 feet per second, and you have 2 points 1,000 feet apart. If you fly 999 feet per second, you don't break the sound barrier and no sonic boom. Remember, there's 2 points involved, 2 points in observational space. Maybe if you can stretch space, warp it by an intense magnetic field, sort of create a bubble stretched in space and warping the space so that it surrounds it. Those 2 points are now 2,000 feet apart to the observer standing over there. And you fly between them in just under a second, and it looks like you went faster than the speed of sound, but no sonic boom. Look, I'm sorry, I know I may come off as a little half-baked. Like I said, I'm not a scientist, but I suspect someone smarter than me has worked out the mechanics. I know it's theoretically possible to change the speed and time between 2 points by curving or warping space, relatively speaking. Research Einstein's theory of relativity. So they say. We don't know. I think it's false. I think they're leaving 2 words out. You too. We don't want you to know. Hey, thanks for watching. That's my theory. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hey, do me a favor and click that like and subscribe button combination and share this video with your friends. Start a conversation. I'll return now, relatively speaking, to writing poetry, cringe poetry, fringe thinking. Not just for Alex Jones anymore. Oh yeah. It's ours. Let it be written.